Okay, 9.5, distance and midpoint formula. Let's talk about this. Okay, distance and midpoint formula. The distance formula, okay, is a version of Pythagorean theorem. What is Pythagorean theorem exactly?
A squared plus B
A squared plus B
equals
squared
C
equals C
squared.
squared.
Right, what?
Is this like the d equals x?
Yeah.
2 plus x1
Yes.
squared plus.
So d, distance equals the square root of x1 plus, not x1
X2
plus.
first.
It's not plus, it's minus. Okay, equals x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So what do you think we need to have in order to find a distance?
Or you need to have the x.
What?
You need 2 x's and 2 y's.
Yes, you need two sets of points on a graph. Okay? You need to know two sets of points on a graph. So, here's the deal. When you're doing Pythagorean theorem, look at this. Okay, if I have a right triangle, I have a point here, yes?
Yep.
A point here,
Mhm.
Yep.
and a point here.
Mhm.
From this point to this point, I have a distance.
Yep.
From this point to this point, I have a
Distance.
And from this point to this point, I have a
Distance.
okay? And this is C, we're gonna say A and B, yes?
Mhm.
Yep.
A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Now, if I didn't know what these distances were, but I knew that this point, if I knew this point and this point, I could find that distance, yes?
Yeah.
And if I know this point and this point, I can find that distance. And same thing here. That's why distance equals the square root of these points subtracted from each other, squared, added to each other, okay?
Question.
What?
So, does it matter which one is x? Like which one
Comes
is
first? No, but if this x comes first, then this y has to come first.
It's like if x1 comes first, does y1 have to come first as
Yes.
well? Okay.
Okay, so what essentially is happening is this. You're basically taking the absolute value of the differences between things, okay?
Oh,
To
okay.
find the distance. So, let us look at a problem. Let's say you have a triangle, okay? And you have, points of -3, 2 here. Okay.
Oh, they're points. Okay,
Yep.
that makes more sense now. Okay.
4, 2 is here, okay? And up top we have 4, 6, okay?
Four cheese on the bottom. You said okay.
And up top we have 4, 6, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to label these A, B,
Oh, I just missed
and
one.
C, okay? Now, to solve this, okay, we know that AC equals what?
AC equals
Negative
-3, 2, and 4, 6. No,
Okay.
if net 4,
Minus
2, 4, 2, 4, 2.
No, AC equals the square root of,
Of -3, no, 2.
Wait.
why don't you do it this way? Listen to me. Make this easier on yourself so that negatives aren't a problem. Start with this positive
Oh,
one.
4 minus 3.
Yes,
Okay.
4 minus
Got it.
-3, correct? Because the
Yeah.
formula has a minus sign in there already, and I gotta keep that negative sign with it, you can't get rid of it. Plus, and because I use this x first, I have to use this y first.
Yeah.
So then 2
2 minus
minus 2 squared, okay? So then I say AC equals the square root of, here I get a, blip, blip, what's 7 squared?
49.
49.
So then AC equals the square root of
0.
49, because 49 plus 0 is
Yeah.
We're
49.
so smart.
So then AC equals what?
49?
49. Wait.
No,
No.
7.
7. Oh, because that thing is still in the radical thing.
Correct, because so I need to take the square root of it, yes.
Okay, so on your formula it says x, parentheses x squared. There.
Yeah.
Wait. Don't
So
you
like
square
if-
4?
No, you have to do what's inside order of operations, parentheses, exponents,
And then
dots.
squared.
Okay, let me show you another way to do this. Okay, what axes is this technically on right here?
X.
X, okay? So let's focus on the x points, okay? Watch this. If I take the absolute value, because distance is always positive, right? We've talked about that. If I take the absolute value of the difference between these, okay? -3 minus 4. What's -3 minus 4?
1.
-7.
-7. What's the absolute value of -7?
7.
Do you get the same answer?
Yeah.
Now listen, that only works here because it's both on the x-axis.
Wait,
So I just use the x points. When I'm running the whole time, okay, remember x is run, okay? When I'm running the whole time, I can focus just on those points and take the absolute value. I can solve it either way.
Oh, okay.
Now, how do you think I could solve this right
That's
here?
on the y-axis.
Correct.
Wait, so hold up.
So you can focus on the 6 and the 2.
Yes.
So
So
like,
6 minus
would it
2?
be like absolute 2 minus absolute 6?
No, 6 minus. You can
Yeah,
do
I mean,
6 minus
absolute
2.
six.
Oh, you mean on the y one?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
why?
So for this, to find BC, a simple way to do it, since they're both on the y-axis, would be to focus on the,
6 minus 2.
so you can do 2 minus 6 or 6 minus 2, Sonia, we're gonna get the same answer,
Yeah.
okay? So 6 minus 2, the absolute value of that. What's
4.
You get absolute value of 4 and the absolute
Negative
value of 4, no.
It's just 4. It's just
Oh,
4. It's just 4.
Remember, absolute value always makes something
Positive.
positive.
Oh, okay.
We
so
did
it's
this
last
now-
year.
oh.
Here's my question, if I wanna find AB, what can I do?
You have to do the harder way.
So I can't do it with absolute value?
You can.
Well, it's
Well,
going this
these-
way. It's not on X or
Good,
Y.
good, Matthew. It's not specifically straight up and down, and it's
Or-
not specifically horizontal. So I have to use the distance formula on AB. Okay? I cannot use absolute value on AB because this is not straight up and down or straight long ways.
Okay.
Okay? So you have to say AB equals what?
A,
The square root
Uh,
of
Let's do
negative
4.
negative
4.
4 minus 3.
4 minus negative 3 squared plus.
6 minus 2.
Squared.
Okay, so then I get this. I get 7 squared, yes?
Yep,
What's
49.
6 minus 2?
4.
So 4 squared. I wanna see all your work, so show me all your work, please. 7 squared is 49, 4 squared is
8. Or 16, sorry.
16. Whew, you
Gosh.
guys are gonna have to be careful.
Alrighty.
So then the square root, what's 49 plus 16?
It's an answer. 60. 65. 65.
Okay, does 65 have a square root?
No.
Oh, so what do you have to do?
You have to do
Make
the
a
little
factor
factor
tree.
tree
Yeah,
thing.
so what goes into 65?
5 and.
5 and
16.
13. Ooh, so does that even work?
No.
Nope, so I leave it as
65. So just. Oh, you leave it as radical?
equals 65.
So you can't. Okay.
Nope, you can't.
Just
Okay,
stays radical.
just leave it in radical form for me, Coolio.
Coolio.
Okay, let's try this next one. It says, find the distance between these points. M is 6, 3, and N is 5, 7. Find the distance. How would I do this?
D equals radical x2 minus x1.
Okay, give me those points.
6, well, 6
Yeah.
is x.
6 minus what?
X1 minus 3, well, no, 5, 2,
No.
5.
What, time out? You're saying numbers that aren't even up there. 6 minus what? 5. Okay, and then you're saying square it,
Yeah.
not 2, square.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what here?
3 minus 7.
Squared. What's 6 minus 5?
1.
So I get 1 squared plus what's 3 minus 7?
Negative 5.
Negative 4
Sorry.
squared. What's 1 squared?
1.
1, what's negative 4 squared?
Negative 16.
No, not negative. 16. The whole Matthew, listen, think this through. The whole reason we're squaring stuff and the whole reason we take absolute value is so that we have positive answers. Because a negative times a negative is a,
Positive.
so if I have negative 4 squared, I have negative 4 times negative 4.
That's also, this square is also different?
No, the square. No, negative 4 times
Squared
negative 4
means
is
that I have
positive.
2 of that same thing.
Yeah.
So yes, does that make sense? So then I get D equals radical 17. Do you think radical, what do I know about 17?
It's not. It's not a
It's
perfect
simplest
square.
form.
So it's in simplest form. Beautiful. Okay. Let's see here. There's an example in your book on page 477 that talks about a bird watcher and how he tracks these birds and their all locations. And then he just asks, what is if coordinates of point A are 3, 2, and coordinates of point B are 7, 5, can you tell me the distance between those two birds? Okay, so same type of concept. Now, the last formula we need to learn is the midpoint formula. What does a midpoint mean?
The middle of the
Yeah,
both
so
points.
I'm trying to find the middle of like this line, okay? If I wanna find the middle of this line of this triangle, I have to use the midpoint formula.
Oh, so we need to know mid.
Yeah, and listen to me, these two formulas that you are learning today will come up in every math from here on out. Algebra, geometry, algebra 2, anything you take above that, you won't get rid of them. So just memorize them,
Okay.
okay? Midpoint formula is this. It says, and it has a big M, the midpoint equals x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Because when I'm finding the midpoint, I am finding a point, okay? I am not finding a specific number, I am finding a point, which means I need an x and I need a
Y.
Good. Okay?
All one.
So, if I want to find the midpoint, okay, of 3, 8, let's find the midpoint. Actually, we'll just do right here. Midpoint of 3, 8, and -9, -4. Okay, what are we gonna do?
You're gonna plug those numbers in.
Okay, what do I plug in?
3 minus 9, net minus minus 9. Wait.
3
3 minus
plus
minus
negative
9.
No.
Hold up.
Does that sign have a minus?
No, it's
Oh,
plus.
sorry.
Plus
Three.
-9.
Plus -9
I'm sorry.
over
Over 2.
2 and
Plus
8
H
plus
plus
negative
negative
4
4
over
2.
Can I get decimal or fraction answers?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, what's 3 plus -9?
Negative
negative
6.
Negative 6. So I have -6 over
Divided by
2,
two.
yes? What's 8 plus -4? So I have 4 over 2.
You
What's
divide.
-6 divided by 2?
Negative
3.
And what's
Negative.
4 divided by 2?
2. So that's your
Boom.
plot.
That's my midpoint. So, look at this. If I were graphing 3, 8 over here, okay? 3, 8, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if I'm graphing -9, -4, right? Is that what it was?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Negative 9, negative 4.
Okay? The reason I have to use the midpoint formula is because this isn't vertical or horizontal, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I can't just count on this grid, okay? But if I go to -3, -2, 1, 2, or +2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, okay? If I had a nice straight edge, it would look perfect. That divides it into half. 2 equal segments, okay? That's why we're using the formula, because I can't always just line it up beautifully. Okay. So,
Whose phone is that? It's annoying.
I'll just go shut off.
probably Carter's. Is it Carter's? Oh, I thought it was with your face.
I always have it on silent.
Okay.
It's the one with the purple headphones.
Mia's.
Mine is off, and it's got headphones in it, so it shouldn't be. How about everybody just check the phones? Doesn't yours not even get notification sounds? Mine is turned off.
I just turned off my radio.
Okay, so here's the deal. The last thing we need to talk about is the slope, okay? Slope. We talked about this. What is slope?
Rise over run.
Slope is rise over run, yes? And we can represent rise with what values?
It's definitely referring
X and Y.
Y.
With y, and run is with
X.
x. So to find rise over run, I'm taking y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, yes?
was on silent.
Okay,
Then
rise
put on
over
Do Not
run.
Disturb.
Okay,
What? You put on do not disturb.
focus,
I put phone.
just focus. Okay, so we're gonna do some slope. Now listen, don't get this confused. Slope is represented with what variable? When it's in this form, what is my slope?
Then
I'm X plus B.
M, do you
Y
see
equals
that?
M.
What size
That's
of
not
M
my
is
phone.
that?
A little lower.
What size of M was this one?
Capital.
Okay, don't get confused because they're gonna use both on you, you gotta know what they're asking for. If it's a capital M, I'm finding the,
Midpoint.
if it is a lowercase m, I am finding the,
Slope.
okay? So when I'm gonna solve for the slope, okay, if I wanna know what the slope of, no, stop humming. If I wanna know what the slope of 3, 7 is, and 8, -3, how would I find that?
-3.
How would you find that? It's what over what?
X, y over x. The y's over
The differences of y's over the differences of x. So, I'm gonna take
7 minus -3.
7 minus -3 over
Over it.
Sorry.
3 minus
3
8.
3 minus 8. What's 7
Plus 3.
plus 3?
10.
And what is 3 minus -8?
5.
5.
Negative.
Negative.
Negative 5. What's 10 divided by -5?
Negative
Negative
2.
2.
So my slope is,
Negative 2.
now let me point out 2 things and then we're done. Slope formula, distance formula is where I'm subtracting. Okay?
Okay.
Midpoint formula, I add. So I add x's here, add y's here. I subtract y's, I subtract x. I subtract x, I subtract y, I add those two together. Okay? Don't get confused because a lot of times we confuse and we subtract here because we're used to doing that in the other two. Okay? Write your formulas on top of your homework so you can get used to them and seeing them. Got it? Okay? That's 9-5, all formula work.
Can I take a picture?
That's actually not horrible.
Yes.
but-
Yeah, you just plug